Selecting the Right Dog Trainer. Written and narrated by William Garrido. Introduction. The dog training industry has been rapidly growing over the past couple of decades. It is now becoming common to view dog training as a career. This is good news for the industry since it is now easier to find the right professional for your needs and not be stuck with the only choice in your area. This also presents a new challenge, however. Having the industry crammed with hundreds, if not thousands, of new dog trainers every year, you're now more likely to hire a very unqualified trainer. I have been at the brink of ditching this industry so many times due to the lack of accountability in this field. The sad reality is that there are just as many, if not more, irresponsible, uncaring, and incompetent dog trainers out there as there are good ones. There have been news headlines and undercover videos of dog trainers literally beating dogs with blunt objects and killing dogs because of neglect. And those are just people that get caught. There are instances like that all the time. I have seen it with my own very eyes. And aside from the book too, I'm going to be adding some things that are not in the book and expanding on some of the anecdotes. But I also hear about this all the time. And that really pisses me off. I hear about it regularly, and it just really solidifies that writing this book was the right move. Now, getting back to the introduction. This book was written to help you identify red flags, ask the right questions, and select the right person. Whether you're a pet owner seeking help, a veterinarian looking to associate yourself with the right partners, or a rescue organization trying to determine which trainer will be your best fit. This book will help you see which trainers are good for you and which trainers to avoid. That's the end of the introduction. And like I said, I wrote this book because I have been hearing about all these stories throughout the years, and they never get better. They just keep accumulating. Even trainers that, if I told you their names, if you are in the dog training industry, if I told you their names, you wouldn't believe me. Just flat out, you wouldn't believe me. Some of you beloved dog trainers on social media, if I told you this trainer did this trainer broke a dog's jaw, laughed about it to his staff members, tells his staff members to carry sticks so that they could beat the dogs if they step out of line. And if I told you the name of this person and other people like him that are famous on social media, you wouldn't believe me. You would just think I'm making it up. Okay, that's how much lack of accountability there is in the industry. Anybody with a leash and social media and a Malinois, okay, I'm making that exaggeration too, but suddenly now you're a dog trainer. And there are people that have low skill, but they have the right heart, they have the right intention. I don't have a problem with them. They're learning. But there are also people that don't have the right intention. They just want to do it for the popularity or for whatever issues they're trying to resolve. And they are very unfair to the dog. And I hear about this all the freaking time. And that's what motivated me to write this book. I got just so pissed with all of these horror stories that I kept hearing. And I kept thinking to myself, why do people go to these people? Why do pet owners go to these people? And I know why. They don't know. You know, anybody could put up a nice website and tell you all about themselves and put great pictures about their dogs and have awesome pictures of them, you know, hanging out, going to the park and doing short clips of dogs learning how to sit. But that doesn't tell you about the character of that person. Now, I have been working with dog trainers for a very long time. For 7 years of my career, of my life, I taught at a dog training school. I taught many people how to train dogs. And I've seen people with all different kinds of characters go to the school and want to become professionals. All of them different motives, all of them different characters, and all of them eventually become dog trainers. Some have very awesome character, and some have very questionable character. You won't know the difference because it's not something that they normally put on their website. They're not going to put, I have a pretty shitty character. I am going to neglect your dog. I'm going to beat your dog. They don't have that. But I do know how to pick these things out little by little, right? By asking some questions, by seeing how they respond to certain questions, or by just watching them. I know I can pick out what kind of trainer, what kind of character you have, and why you are a dog trainer. So my intention in writing this book was to give the consumer some of those tips. And by reading this book or by listening to this book, you're going to be in a better position to gauge whether this person is right for you. So this book was written primarily for the pet owner. If you're a dog trainer listening to this audio, then, obviously you're going to find some of this stuff helpful too. But my goal was not to write this for the dog trainer. It was not for my peers. It was for the pet owner. So if you are a dog trainer with awesome character, and obviously you don't always have the client with you. Sometimes your client leaves. Sometimes your client moves. Okay, hand them this book. Point them in the direction of this book. It's on Amazon. The hard copy is on Amazon. Or send them this link. Okay, it's a very short read. The book itself, it's pretty easy to follow. It's not a big, massive book. But send them this link. Have them listen to this audiobook. Give them a hard copy, or show them how to get a hard copy through Amazon. And they will be in a much better position to find a dog trainer with the right character. All right, let's dive into the first chapter. What does a dog trainer do? I know you're already thinking, well, train dogs, of course. But bear with me and let's figure out what a dog trainer does. And equally important, what they don't do in order to help you identify what you're looking for. The ideal dog trainer does more than just train your dog. An ideal dog trainer understands more than just mechanics. They also understand body language. They have a good understanding of temperament, which is the dog's personality and mixed with the genetic traits. And they're able to grasp the fundamentals of behavior modification. The ideal dog trainer is also a good communicator and has enough patience and communication skills to convey the complexities of what they know in relation to the dog they're working with to their client. Finally, the ideal dog trainer has enough sense to realize a particular approach sometimes needs to be modified or be completely abandoned. In other words, the ideal dog trainer does not have an ego problem. Notice I never said anything about the ideal dog trainer having years of experience. This is because, unlike many other professions, it is possible to be mediocre and downright incompetent for decades and get away with it in this industry. I have seen many young and new dog trainers outthink, outtrain, and outwit trainers with quote-unquote decades of experience. Now that we've identified the ideal dog trainer, let's go to the opposite extreme. The wrong dog trainer. Okay, the wrong dog trainer knows very little about their craft. They have a hard time explaining in layman's terms what they're seeing and how they will approach the training. They will go on a blaming spree and continuously blame you and or your dog without offering any real solutions. The wrong dog trainer puts a lot of emphasis on their professional skills, their professional accomplishments to compensate for their lack of skill. Don't get me wrong, accomplishments are very important and they can speak volumes of the trainer's skill and experience, but unfortunately, it's not always the case. Okay? And I can tell you this because I work with, I've been working with working dogs for a long time, and I've worked with trainers that have accomplished a lot on their resume, very impressive resumes. They've have competed at high levels, or are, what we would call in the industry trainers, kennel masters with decades of experience. And I've seen these people be incredibly incompetent, that lack compassion, and that their solution to everything is pressure. And I get into this a little bit later, but the reason I wanted to emphasize that here is because you don't necessarily want to go with the guy with the decades of experience, okay? Like that is the one thing that you have to be very careful with. I know trainers. I have worked with them. I've had them in my club, in my protection club. Police dog handlers and trainers with decades of experience. And some of them are good, and some of them, I'm like, how did you get by after your first year? How? There's no way you were this incompetent for like 10, 15 years. But it happens. So be careful with he's got 20, 15 years of experience. That, I'm telling you from experience, guys, okay? I've worked with these people. I'm telling you, that doesn't always mean anything. Okay, so now that I gave you two extremes, right, the right dog trainer and the wrong dog trainer, there are some gray areas. Some trainers are very skilled but need help in the communication department. So they're very skilled at training dogs, but they're not very good with people skills. Now, some are excellent communicators, very personable, good with people skills, but lack somewhat in the dog training skills. So sometimes you have that good communicators, not very good with dogs, and sometimes you have amazing with dogs, but not very good communicators. Okay, so those are some of your gray areas. Now let's go over and and see what a dog trainer does and what doesn't do. Remember, that's the beginning of this chapter. It was, what does a dog trainer do? Okay, we identified the wrong dog trainer and the right dog trainer. Now let's see what they actually do. A dog trainer, here's a list. A dog trainer will get as much detail as possible about your dog. Okay, that's what a good dog trainer will do. They will get as much detail about your dog as they possibly can so that they can help you out in the best way they can, whether it's board and train, private lessons, whatever. A dog trainer will possibly ask you about personal details in regards to your personal routine for the purpose of understanding why your dog does what it does. Sometimes the dog trainer, they're not trying to be nosy. Sometimes they're going to ask you some personal details, not because they're trying to be nosy and they're trying to get in your business, because a lot of what you do in your personal life does affect your dog's behavior patterns in the house. Okay? A dog trainer will hear your concerns and take your suggestions into account, but will ultimately present you with the best solution for you and your dog. This is what the right dog trainer does. Okay, sometimes I've had clients that they're very savvy, they're very smart, they have some experience, and they bring you the dog, and they already have their suggestions. They already have sort of their ideas as to, what could be happening. But here's the thing. If you're hiring a dog trainer, if you're looking to pay somebody or somebody's going to help you with your dog, and they have more experience than you, they clearly are going to you. You've sort of identified that this is the right person. Yes, do give your suggestions because you know the dog more than that dog trainer does at the time. But at the end of the day, listen to what their suggestion is. Okay, now more into what dog trainers actually do. A dog trainer will in fact train your dog, but will also make sure you understand what went on during training and help train you as well so that your dog gets all the clarity it needs. The right dog trainer doesn't just train your dog. They want to train you. They want you to understand, okay? They're not trying to make you dog trainers, okay? If you bring your dog to a dog trainer, to a professional, the emphasis should really, one, definitely the dog, but a lot of the problems that you have with your dog are rooted in something you're doing or something you're not doing. So the right dog trainer doesn't just take your money, train your dog, and tell you, okay, have fun, good luck, I'll see you whenever you want refresher training for your dog. They're interested in helping you. Okay, a dog trainer will send you weekly updates on the dog's progress. If the dog stays with the trainer, so if they do a board and train, they're gonna send you weekly updates, right? You should never feel like you're just getting in the way by expecting updates. If I keep your dog for 4 weeks, I'm gonna give you weekly updates. If I keep your dog for 2 weeks, I'm gonna give you weekly updates. Okay, it's not unreasonable to expect updates. Okay. Now, don't bug the trainer at like 3 a.m. asking if your dog is comfortable. Wait for the updates, but there should be updates. The amount of times that I hear about these crappy dog trainers or unethical dog trainers not say a word about the dog to the client, that's another thing that I hear. Like, how do you just keep the dog, neglect it for like 3 months? Then the owner picks up the dog and they go, oh my God, what happened to my dog? That he's got sores here. He's like lost a ton of weight. He looks sick. What the heck happened in those 4 weeks? Right? The weekly updates help you stay in touch with what's happening with your dog. Now, a dog trainer can sometimes let you know that training needs to be extended for the sake of getting results. But this isn't to rip you off, but rather to help you and your dog reach your goals. I've had this happen where the original goal is to keep the dog for 3 weeks. That's the minimum I do. I don't do 2 weeks. But to keep the dog for like 3 weeks, and I'm like, it's taken your dog an entire week just to adjust to the new environment. And then now we're getting to work, but we might need to extend. We don't have to, but if you want to see the best results, I know we originally signed up for 3, but you will see better results if I kept your dog for at least another week. Okay? Which is still relatively a short period of time in the grand scheme of things. But sometimes that does happen. It's not because, I want to get more money. Okay, this is a common occurrence. I know this with my peers. A lot of dog trainers that I know, sometimes they need to extend. Now, some really crappy dog trainers will use that same tactic. I've heard of that happening. Will use the same tactic, not because they want to make your dog a little bit better, but because they truly did not do anything with your dog. I've heard of this happening. Okay, from people that I know, that they'll do like a 2-week board and train, and the dog just sat in the kennel, didn't do anything for like an entire week and a half, and then 3 days or so before the dog got picked up, then they started cranking up the pressure, and then they realized, shoot, that's not enough time, and then they asked for another week. I've heard of that happen, and I'm sad to admit I've seen it happen with some other dog trainers, where they didn't necessarily neglect the dog, but they neglected the training. Okay, and so now they're trying to extend just because, they did not put in the work early on. Sometimes it is necessary, sometimes it's highly recommended, and sometimes the trainer is just a piece of crap. But that's the purpose of this book, is to help you identify that. All right, let's go to what dog trainers don't do. Okay, here's what dog trainers don't do. A dog trainer won't train your husband or your children. Stop asking. It was funny the first time they heard that line, but chances are you're not the first person who have asked that. Okay, like we get this all the time. Do you train husbands? Do you train children too? So yeah, we don't do that. We're gonna train your dog. We're gonna train your entire family in regards to your dog for sure. Okay, on a serious note, dog trainers are not family counselors. I have been in that situation. It is very awkward, okay? When you bring your dog to me, when you bring your dog to a dog trainer, leave the dirty laundry at home. Okay, don't bring out your issues, your marital issues to the house. Try to just separate that for a moment, for that hour, however long you are with that trainer. Don't be don't be harsh on don't be awkward on your spouse or your significant other, because then it puts us in a very uncomfortable situation. It takes our focus away from your dog. So we're not counselors, we're not mediators. We already deal with a lot of awkwardness being put in uncomfortable situations that involve drama. Okay, so keep your trainer out of the drama. A dog trainer will not or should not ask you out on a date or flirt with you. If so, you got to cut ties immediately. Chances are you're not the first person that this trainer has tried to do that to. I have seen that happen. It's it's disgusting, okay? It's so unprofessional. I mean, the chances of you making a real connection with your professional, with your dog trainer, they're definitely there. If you're single and they're single, okay, it could definitely happen. But I'm telling you, if you're getting asked out, if you're getting hit on, there's a very good chance that it's not like a love connection. There's a very good chance that this person has pulled that off before. Okay. And I actually know dog trainers that do this. I've had their clients tell me, yeah, so I used to go to this dog trainer, but then he started asking me to do sexual favors. Okay. And obviously then they just completely break ties. That is completely unprofessional. You do not want to be associated with that. You're not the first person that this trainer has done that to. And even if they seem very charming, trust me, they're just trying to get laid. I know dog trainers that do that. This is kind of what they do. So they should not be doing that. They should remain very professional. You don't want to get involved romantically or in any more than just a professional relationship. It will affect you. It will affect your progress with your dog. So don't even go there. Get away from this person. What a dog trainer doesn't do, a dog trainer won't diagnose medical conditions. And if they do, and are not qualified to do so, they're not the right dog trainer. Walk away from this person. Now, if your dog trainer is also a vet, or maybe even a vet tech, has experience with that, okay, I get it. They probably could be they could be in a better position to help you diagnose some issues. Right? I mean, some simple stuff. Like, if I'm not a veterinarian, I'm not a vet tech, but if I see a hot spot, I can tell you, hey, your dog has hot spots, right? Your dog has diarrhea. Your dog has, kennel cough. Those are easy things to sort of diagnose, but a dog trainer should not diagnose other more complex things, right? Like, one big thing is when dogs act aggressive, some dog trainers immediately want to diagnose, oh, your dog has some rage syndrome, your dog does this, that. They're in no position to do that. So a dog trainer should not diagnose medical conditions that are complex. If they do that, they're not the right person. Okay? Just like your veterinarian should not really be too involved in your training. That's not what they do, unless they are dog trainers, unless they have experience training dogs. And it's the same thing. A dog trainer should not be giving you medical advice. So if they do that, typically not the right person. Okay, dog trainers don't cuddle with your dogs all day. So don't expect them to be cuddling with your dog every time that they reach out to you or you reach out to them. That's another thing that sometimes dog owners have unrealistic expectations of. I've had clients in the past telling me, oh, yes, Fido loves to go to the beach. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, the beach is like an hour away from me. I'm not going to take your dog to the beach. Your dog is here for training. So don't expect too much out of your dog trainer. They're not gonna cuddle your dogs. They're not gonna take your dogs on hikes every single day. You have to remain professional too. Okay, so do give them that courtesy. Dog trainers won't send you daily emails, texts, and phone calls. Even though, yes, I did say they should update you weekly, that doesn't mean every hour of the day. That doesn't mean every single day. Give them some time. Let them breathe. Okay, we know you miss your dog, but trust me, they have other things to do. They have other clients to work with. They have other dogs to work with. They have their own personal life. They have their own personal dogs. They have other things that they pursue. Your dog is not the center of their universe. So here's where I'm going to stick up for the dog trainers a little bit and tell you, give them some breathing space. Let them focus on your dog and wait for the weekly update. Okay, that's not unreasonable. They should give you a weekly update, but don't expect a daily update. Okay, unless obviously it's an emergency. Dog trainers are not dog walkers. Again, going back to, don't expect your dog trainer to do things that you didn't really, signed up for. Okay, dog trainers are not up all hours of the night. They often have families and other interests to pursue, so don't text them at 2 a.m. to ask them if Fido is comfortable. That sounds like a joke and an exaggeration, but this does happen. I have had those texts and those calls like at 11 at night, 1 a.m. No, you gotta give them some time. They're not. Again, your dog is not the center of their universe. They are professionals. A dog trainer's job is to help you and your dog. They are your coach, and they should be very helpful. But their job is not to love you or your dog, okay, or become your friend, any more than it would be your family doctor's job to love your children and be your best friend. Don't expect that. Okay, yeah, some dog trainers will friend you on Facebook or social media whenever, any other platform, whenever you listen to this, that might be different. But just because they train your dog, they might not accept your friend request. They might want to remain very professional and keep that distance. Okay. They might turn down your invitation to a Christmas meal. I've had those invitations. I've had clients that, some things here and there is not a big deal, but, don't invite us to like a big family dinner. That's when you start to cross that line of professionalism. Now, some trainers might be okay with that, and some trainers might want to hang out with you, but don't be offended if they decline. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, if they want to be your friend and they want to, love your dog like it's their dog, that's one thing, but don't get offended if they don't. Now, as of this point in the book, you should have a better idea, right, of what this professional is. But we're not done yet. We still have a lot more details to cover. All right, moving on to the next chapter, page 9. What type of dog trainers are there? Literally hundreds, if not thousands, of dog trainers are getting their certifications every single year from various dog training schools in the U.S. This includes on-site and online curriculums and certificates, apprenticeships, as well as on-the-job training. I'm talking about here in the U.S., obviously. Throughout the world, this is also expanding. In the U.S., it's a booming industry. The problem here is that many of these institutions, the ones that provide the curriculums and the certificates, whether it's online or through an on-site school or through apprenticeships, the problem with having so many of these, right, is that all of these places have different views on dog training. This is actually a good thing. In some instances, it's a good thing. This means the market is practically flooded with dog trainers who disagree all the time. Like if I went to this school and you went to that school and, you got your certification online through this website, and I got my certification through this other website, and you went to that seminar, and I went to this seminar, this, that, and much more variety that you and I can go to, that means that we're going to disagree. This happens. Okay? The market is flooded with dog trainers who disagree all the time. I've been in this industry for over a decade, 12 years to be exact, going on 13 as of the recording of this audio. And I can confidently tell you the views can be completely different. As a former instructor at a major school for dog trainers, Starmark Academy to be exact, I used to work for them. I can tell you that even in the same class, this is a phenomena that I notice in every single class. Okay, the same class, same curriculum. Okay, having been given the same instruction, we always produced dog trainers that had completely different styles. Okay, the curriculum was more of what we would call balance training. We used all the different tools, but we produced different dog trainers that would lean towards one side more than the other, right? Not to mention that some of these students who passed the qualifications were nicer, more ethical than others, and some were not. This leaves you, the consumer, with a lot of options that may or may not be the most suitable for you. For the sake of simplicity, let's break down the different types of dog trainers in very simple categories. All right. One category is very common, the purely positive trainer. The purely positive trainer. This trainer puts emphasis on positive reinforcement and wants to cause the least amount of stress in your dog. Training often involves a lot of treats, long training programs, and at times management options over training for the sake of the dog, right? For the sake of reducing or minimizing stress at all costs. The main tools of this trainer will be no pull harness, head harness like a Halti or a gentle leader, treat pouches, high value treats, and oftentimes clicker training, so a marker or some sort. I'm not exaggerating when I say oftentimes this involves management options over training, and this will take usually long training programs. I'm deviating from the book a little bit to give you extra content. I have had clients that have gone to purely positive trainers before me. This has happened on more than one occasion. And the training program involved a very long training process. At the end of the day, I'm not trying to talk crap here, but at the end of the day, at the end of the long training program, and at the end of all the money that got spent, they were told, yeah, your dog we can't really change that about your dog, but here's what you can do. And basically very little training that contrast that the client saw, but they were told, here's how you can manage it. And this has happened more than one occasion. Also, it's not uncommon for these people to go, no, we would rather, I'm not exaggerating, this sounds like an exaggeration, but I've seen it, and I've seen these people talk about this. Okay, even trainers that you would call more on the famous side, that they would rather put the dog down. They think that's more humane than putting a prong collar on the dog. The delusion there baffles me. But anyway, moving on. This is typically your type of trainers on the purely positive side. So another category, let's go back to the book, is the militant, old school pressure trainer. This type of trainer tends to be very direct, non-compromising, and at times confrontational. I've worked with these people firsthand. I can tell you that is a pretty accurate description of a lot of people in this category. The consultation often consists mainly of the trainer telling you what they're going to do, as opposed to asking you detailed questions about your dog's history. This trainer will emphasize force in mechanics, which is often their strength. Their training relies on a lot of discipline and force. I have seen these trainers again, a lot of this stuff, if you're a consumer, if you're a dog owner, if you're a dog trainer, this is not going to surprise you. If you're a dog owner, some of the things that I say might come to a shock to you. Take it from me. I'm telling you the honest to God truth. Some of the stuff that I put on here might sound like exaggerations. They're not, okay? So let me get back to the book, know that this is literal what I have seen. I have seen firsthand these trainers hanging, that's right, hanging and kicking dogs like it was not a big deal, like it was just part of the training protocol. I've seen it. No exaggeration. It wasn't like an isolated thing. I've seen a lot of trainers in this category do this. The appeal in this group is that they are usually seen getting fairly quick results on the surface. If you use enough pressure with most dogs, you're going to see the dogs comply much faster. Okay? Now, they don't call themselves old school or militant or pressure trainers. They will either not categorize themselves, or they will categorize themselves, or they'll call themselves balanced trainers. So they prefer not to fit in any category. Okay? I'm generalizing here, guys. The purely positive trainer, the militant old school pressure trainer, and the other couple of categories that I'm going to be going over, they're generalizations. And I'm going to make a point to remind you of that later. But the main tool of this particular trainer, the old school trainer, okay, the main tool tends to be choke chains, prong collars, electronic collars, rarely, if at all, treats or toys. When asked what they use as rewards, the answer is usually praise or petting. I wish I could tell you that is a big generalization, but no, a lot of these guys happen to be like that. They will call treat training, they'll refer to it as bribing. That's what they typically refer to the use of using treats. They'll call that bribing, right? They'll go, oh no, the dog's just working for food. It's shallow. And that's what these guys are. I need you to know, if you're a consumer and you're looking at different training options, be aware that this is the type of person that this trainer is. Okay, if they automatically tell you no, food is for bribing, you have to be aware that this is kind of the type of trainer that you have. We have more categories, and I have much more information to give you that will help you make the right decision. Let's move on to the next category. The next category is the balanced trainer. The balanced trainer is a nice compromise between the purely positive trainer and the old school pressure trainer. This group of trainer is becoming more and more popular. This also makes it easy for very incompetent trainers to categorize themselves in this group. I've seen a lot of incompetence labeled as balanced. The true balanced trainer wants to minimize stress in training, but is also adamant about the importance of discipline. Many balanced trainers started off as either purely positive or pressure trainers that eventually became discontent with the progress their limited approach had on the dogs that they worked with. The tools the balanced trainer will use will range from clicker to e-collars and everything in between. So I myself will be more in the balanced trainer category. I use every single tool available to me, and I make that decision of which particular tool, which particular approach I'm going to use based on the individual, based on the animal, the dog in front of me, and also based on the client that I'm serving. So to me, I don't have a religious attachment to any tool, any method. It's whatever works for the dog. Okay, whatever also will work for the client. That's why we tend to put ourselves in that category of balance. We will use everything at our disposal. We're not going to say, no, I don't use treats, but we're also not going to say, no, I don't use corrections. There's another category. Not done yet. Another category is the I'm just a trainer. So this category is kind of interesting. If you ask a dog trainer, what type of dog trainer are you? They might reply with just I'm just a dog trainer, followed by something along the lines of, I just focus on what the dog needs and blah, 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 right? They basically refuse to label themselves. This is often the way that this dog trainer feels philosophically in terms of where they are in their career or journey. So they'll just say, I'm just a trainer, and I don't like to categorize myself. I know trainers that do this, okay? But here's the thing. That's how they feel about themselves. But the, I'm just a trainer, right? That phrase itself doesn't really address your concerns as a consumer. You truly, genuinely want to know what kind of trainer you have in front of you, what kind of trainer you're talking to, what kind of trainer is going to be taking care of your dog. So that's a simple question. What style do you use? They should tell you, well, I'm more on the purely positive side, or I'm more on the reward-based style of training. And some trainers might go, I'm more on the traditional style of training. I'm more on the discipline side of training. Or they should say, well, I'm a balanced trainer. But if they just go, I'm just a dog trainer, I'm glad that that's how you feel about your life and your journey, but that's not really addressing my concerns if I'm the consumer. I'm asking you a simple question. What kind of style of training do you use? I'm the consumer here, right? If this is me asking that question, I have a right to know what kind of person I'm going to be leaving my dog with. So give me more information. So when the trainer you're doing a consultation with describes themselves in this category of I'm just a trainer, ask the following question. Okay, I'm just a trainer. Okay, what tools do you normally use on a regular basis? And are you more on the purely positive side, or are you more on the discipline side, or are you a combination of both? Right? So remember that part again. Are you more of the purely positive side? Are you more on the discipline side, or are you more on the combination of both? Dog trainers understand this question. You're not going to throw them off. Dog trainers understand this question. They know what kind of category they're in. Their answer should clarify to you what kind of trainer they are. Okay? What category they're in. Because here, by asking these questions, you're asking a very reasonable question. Okay? You're giving them a multiple choice. So if they can't answer that, proceed with caution. Any dog trainer should be able to summarize what approach they use regularly and what approach they feel comfortable using. If they can't answer that, to me, that's a problem. Again, you're the consumer. You have a right to know. Let's go back to why I wrote this book. I wrote this book because I was learning and hearing about people doing despicable things to people's dogs in the name of quote-unquote training, neglecting, practically killing, and in some instances, downright killing dogs, that they would just brush it off as, it's not a big deal. Complete scum, okay? And they get away with this because the consumer doesn't know what kind of questions to ask. So my job here, okay, it is very important to me. This is why I wrote this book, is to give consumers as much information as possible and arm them with the right questions to ask to identify what kind of person is going to be taking care of your dog. So you're not being unreasonable. Remember that there are a lot of incompetent, not only incompetent, but downright inhumane, unethical human beings that will take your money, take advantage of you because you don't know, and in the process neglect and injure your dog. So ask away. If they can't answer simple questions, move on. That person does not deserve your money. That person should not be taking care of your dog. All right, let's go on to the next chapter, page 13. Do you need a dog trainer? And how involved do you want to be in the training process? So do you need a dog trainer? The short answer is probably not. You really don't need a dog trainer. You could, in fact, learn the basics and more. Books, workshops, conferences, they're not limited to just professional dog trainers. You can learn how to train your own dog. In fact, many dog trainers started just like many of you, dissatisfied with their dog's behavior and not willing or able to pay someone else to help them. That's how I started. Okay, it was something that made me go, I want to learn how to do this with my dog, and that piqued the interest, and that was really the stepping stone to me being where I am today, to me reading you this book. Okay, so you can in fact train your own dog. You can in fact learn to train your own dog. If you're the type of person who's very hands-on and likes to be involved in your dog's progress, it won't hurt at all to become familiar with the basic principles of dog training. I actually have clients that enjoy the learning process. I have clients that do private lessons with me because they want to be there every step of the way. They want to learn how to train their own dogs, and that's the purpose of the private lessons, and they're very happy with it. They love the learning process. So if this is you, it really is beneficial for you to learn this stuff. Even if you decide to hire a trainer, it'll make so much more sense if you're involved and you are aware of everything that takes place in your dog's training. On the other hand, if you decide you don't really want to be involved and it's not something that you would particularly enjoy, that's fine too. You should be willing to learn some of the basics still, though. Okay, that your trainer will give you to follow up with once the training has been done. Okay, you have to at least grasp some of the basics. Okay. You have to at least be able to understand. Even if you don't want to be involved, you should at least understand how to follow through, understand how to follow up with the training that is inevitably going to be necessary. I don't like to work on cars. That's not my thing. I'm not the type of person that I want to learn how to get under the hood and work my car and fix my car. I don't like that. That's not my cup of tea. I can't stand it. I would much rather pay somebody else. I don't want to be involved in that process. But I do have a pretty decent idea of some of the basic principles, okay? I understand some of the basic principles of the operation of my vehicle. And when something goes wrong, I'm not completely clueless. I have an idea of what went wrong, and I have an idea of how to prevent some issues. It's the same way. This is how it should be with your dog as well. All right, so there are 4 basic services most of dog trainers will offer you. Okay, now in this chapter, I'm going to be going over the different services that most dog trainers will offer you. I just got a call today, earlier, and this is a very common call. People will call you. You're a dog trainer. If you're a dog trainer, you'll get this call where they'll ask you, what kind of services do you offer? How much do you charge for this, and that? So I'm going to give you the different options that a lot of dog trainers offer. It's very common, okay? Group classes is one type of service that a lot of dog trainers will offer. Group classes. So I'm going to go over this. This is usually a once per week class with you and a handful of other clients and their dogs. The trainer is there for about an hour, so it's a very limited period of time, an hour, with you and a handful of other people, and is given assistance to owners and their pets, you being one of them. Now, the trainer is primarily hands-off. They will teach you some mechanics, but you'll be doing a lot of the teaching yourself. It's almost like a group coaching session, and you have your dog with you, and the trainer is there to kind of guide you all as a group. Now, this is only about an hour, okay? And you're also going to have a group of other people with their dogs. You can see why the trainer cannot give you and your dog individual attention for more than a few minutes at a time. Okay, these are group classes, so you're not going to get one-on-one time too much. If you're interested in doing a lot of the training and your dog isn't having any severe behavioral issues, group classes can be affordable because they're probably the most affordable option that there is. And it's a great way to get you involved in the training under the supervision of a professional. So that's typically how group classes work. It's for about an hour, and typically it's once a week, and it is the cheapest option because you'll probably pay about the price of a private lesson, but it'll be for a handful of group classes. The disadvantage of this service is that it's limited to minor obedience issues due to being an hour or so long and having you do a lot of the training yourself. You're also only seeing the trainer about once a week and sharing the attention with a handful of other clients. So it's got its disadvantages. Another service, private lessons. Private lessons will also have you doing most of the training. This is ideal if you want to learn how to train your own dog. Unlike group classes, you'll be getting the trainer's exclusive one-on-one attention for about an hour. The trainer will more than likely do some of the work as well, but will ensure that you are getting time doing most of the training. With private lessons, that's exactly what I personally do. I'm coaching the client the entire time. Okay, it's a coaching session, essentially. And there are many times where I don't even touch the dog. I'm actually just coaching the client step by step, and they're learning along their dogs. They're learning with their dogs, and they are learning how to be more skilled at training and at managing and handling their own dogs. The thing to remember about private lessons is that your cooperation is a must if you want to see progress. Just like group classes, this is mostly on you and your ability to do homework. Otherwise, you might as well just give the trainer money for no reason. Okay? Unlike group classes, you can arrange for lessons more than once per week, according to your trainer's schedule, of course. I have clients that I see twice a week, and in the past, I've had clients that I saw every day. So it is much more flexible. The huge advantage of private lessons is that the training is tailored to you and your dog. Okay, the disadvantage, it can be more pricey. So that's sort of the thing that you have to be aware of. For private lessons, you're doing all the work, and you are expected to do a lot of homework. Otherwise, you're not going to see results. It would be unrealistic for you to see me once a week or twice a week, even for an hour for a private lesson. And, if we do a package of 5 lessons, that's like 5 hours total over a period of just over a month. It would be unrealistic for you to expect your dog to be amazing after just 5 hours of training total. So a lot of the training is on you. Okay, during the private lesson, we're telling you, we're showing you how to do X, Y, and Z. The rest of the week, it is your job to practice it, apply it, and follow through so that on the next lesson, we're ready to pick it up on the next session. Day training, I don't particularly offer this one, but I know a lot of dog trainers that do, so I included it in the book. Okay, I'm only including this service as an option here because many dog trainers offer this. Here, in day training, you drop off your dog like you would at a daycare, except that your dog gets training. The price is usually fairly reasonable and sometimes comparable to private lessons, depending on who's offering the service. Now, I know trainers that will have a facility, and you, the customer, the client, can drive by the facility, drop the dog off. You can go to work, and while you're gone at work, the trainers will do training sessions with your dog. And then at the end of your work shift, you just drive over to the trainer's house or facility. You pick up your dog, you take the dog home. And while you were at work, your dog got some training done. That's what day training tends to be. I also know a slightly different variation of that, which is the dog trainer will go to your house and while you're not there, and they'll go to your house, and they'll let themselves in. They'll pull your dog out, and they'll do a training session with your dog, and then they'll move on. After about an hour or so, they'll move on. They'll go somewhere else. So that's another variation of day training. Now let's get back to the book here. Okay, so your dog is going through the motions of training. If it's not consistent enough to make significant difference, if you're considering getting help from a professional, this is a great option if your dog doesn't really need a bunch of training, but rather than just being boarded while you're at work, your dog would also get a training session or a few training sessions while you're gone. So this is good for a lot of maintenance things. If you want your dog to be trained because it needs some things to be addressed, this may or may not be the best option. Remember, the training is happening when you're not there. So for maintenance work, probably great. For bigger issues, I personally would not recommend it. Okay, another service, very, very popular. Like I would say the majority of dog trainers offer this, myself included, at the moment at least, is boarding and training, or IKT, otherwise known as in-kennel training. This is probably one of the most popular services out there at the moment for dog trainers. It involves your dog staying with the dog trainer for a predetermined period of time that could range from a couple of weeks to a couple of months and more. Now, personally, my minimum is 3 weeks. I won't take anything for less than 3 weeks. 3 weeks is the minimum for us. Because for us, 3 weeks is just enough time to kind of get to know each other with the dog and start introducing some of the basic principles of training. 2 weeks barely gives us enough time to know each other. And with some dogs, it might be okay. With a lot of dogs, 2 weeks is just not enough. So we don't do 2 weeks anymore. We do 3 weeks. Now, this service is ideal if you are unable or unwilling to be involved in the training at the early stages. Having offered board and training myself in the past and in the present, along with all other services I just described, I can tell you boarding and training can be a great option if the complexities of the issues that need to be addressed with your dog exceed your skill, coordination, and timing. Now, in that case, this would be the best option. Okay, there are a couple of concerns to be aware of with boarding and training. It is the most expensive service a dog trainer can offer. Okay, you're gonna be paying here over $1,000. It would involve you the least. Okay, and there's even a risk that the dog will behave better with the trainer than they will when they go home with you, because that's the thing, that the trainer is creating a relationship and training your dog at the trainer's place, at the trainer's facility. They're not recreating an exact replica of your home and your routine. So there's going to be homework, and there's still going to be follow-through that needs to get done. But it's not uncommon for dogs to excel in a board and train and then go home and not do well because the trainer was not effective at communicating that to the owner. Now, before I take a dog for board and training, I always let the owner know this. Like, just so you know, I can do this. I will teach your dog the basics in intermediate and advanced, depending on how long I'm keeping the dog. And your dog will learn all these skills. But I want you to know that there will have to be follow-up to be done. And I'll tell the client, I'm very transparent when I talk to people, and I'll tell them, if you don't follow through, the risk is your dog will do great with me, but will not do great with you. So the reason that I want to let you know this now is because I want to make sure that you understand that your hands are not completely off here. Okay, I will take care of the initial teaching of all the skills on your dog. I will do that for you, but then I will help you follow up by doing more lessons, follow-up lessons, private lessons, or staying in touch. But it is a priority for us that the dog, if it's going to get board and trained, it is a priority for us that that dog is successful long-term. So you have to be aware of that as a consumer, because A lot of dog trainers are not very transparent about that fact. So what happens is a lot of dog owners, they have this idea that they're going to drop off the dog for a board and train for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and they're going to pick up the dog completely trained, and the dog will be like awesome. And that's not the reality. The dog is just learning skills. The trainer should help you maintain those skills once the dog goes home with you. They should at least convey that to you. Now, if you consider this service, make sure you really feel comfortable with this trainer, okay? I have seen and heard of horror stories taking place while a client's dog was in a board and train. In many cases, I have known dog trainers who rarely train the dog during the day or during their stay. Then they tell the client they need to extend, at which point they still barely train the dog while they collect a big paycheck. Yes, this industry is full of slime balls. Even big names and businesses engage in this awful practice, oftentimes without their supervisor's knowledge. This also happens to be the service that makes it easier for trainers to abuse and severely neglect your dog. So it's important that you know who you are trusting your dog with. Okay, as a person considering hiring a dog trainer, you need to be aware of what services there are out there, what they entail, and what kind of person you are leaving your dog with. I know big beloved names. Okay, beloved names in the industry that people go, oh my gosh, he's just such an awesome trainer, that I know for sure. Okay, I've heard accounts from people very close to them that have killed dogs and just said that it was an accident, that it basically did not take responsibility. Severely injured dogs did not take responsibility. And these are people that are just household names in social media when it comes to dog training. It is unbelievable how much these people get away with because you don't know. You know, if you were in that area and you knew who this person was, you'd be like, this person can definitely take care of my dog. I trust this person, and he's just so great and so nice. And you have no idea what kind of garbage you are talking about, or what kind of garbage of a person, of a human being you're about to trust your dog with, because you don't know the really shady things that this person has done to other people's dogs and buried it, and didn't tell anybody except for like maybe people very, very close to them. So yes, this industry is full of just garbage people. So my job is, again, I always emphasize this, I want you to be armed with the right information for you to get the right dog trainer. Okay, we're going to go to the next chapter, page 19. This chapter is called The Consultation. Now that you have an idea of what kind of trainers there are out there and what types of services you're looking at being offered, let's talk about the consultation. Every dog trainer should offer you some sort of consultation before they take your money, right? You can't just drop them off. If they just suggest that you just drop the dog off, that could be a red flag, because they can't possibly know how to best serve you and help you, and help your dog if they don't know what your dog needs or what your goals are. The consultation is basically a map that allows the trainer to see where you want to go with your dog in terms of training. The trainer basically is trying to get as much detail as they can in a period of about 20 minutes, sometimes an hour. This can be done over the phone or in person, or even through email, but there should be some sort of a consultation, even if it's on the phone. A lot of times in person works great. The consultation in person could be at your place, at your house, or sometimes some trainers will have you come to their facility. Now keep in mind, if you go to their facility, typically the consultations are free. If the trainer goes to your house, typically those consultations are not free. Okay, but there should be some sort of a consultation. During the consultation, make sure you are very transparent with the trainer. Tell them about the embarrassing moments you've had with your dog, the people it has growled at or bit, the things about your dog and your relationship with your dog that you would be embarrassed to admit to your friends. The reason it's very important to get it all out is so that the trainer has a full picture of what they're going to be working with. Okay, I have on more than one occasion been close to getting bit or not be able to fully help the client because something the client neglected to tell me. They just did not think it was important to tell me certain things. And seriously, that did almost result in me getting bit on more than one occasion because there was some detail that they just were too embarrassed to bring up. And that's a no-go. You want to make sure that you are transparent. And also, it's just for your sake too. Bring the things up that embarrass you about the dog. Normally, this is not a problem for people who are asking for help with their dogs, but just in case, you have to make sure that you bring that up, okay? For example, if your dog doesn't like people, let the trainer know every instance in which your dog didn't like people. Okay, you're not trying to impress the dog trainer. You're trying to tell them as much info as you can. Okay, every person it has bitten or growled at, if that's the case. Do the people that your dog doesn't like have something in common? Are they of a particular ethnicity? I know that might be embarrassing to admit, but do it anyway. Okay, this will be the best way to help your dog. Do not be ashamed if your dog doesn't like people of a certain ethnicity, okay, of a certain skin color. That's not your fault. If you have a decent dog trainer in front of you, they know that this has nothing to do with you. Okay, this is a temperament issue or a poor socialization issue. But you want to bring those things up. I know they're embarrassing, but bring them up. Okay. Now, like I said earlier, a moment ago, consultations at the facility, that is an option. This consultation takes place at the trainer's facility. This means your dog may act completely different. Be ready for that. If your dog is normally pushy and fierce with strangers at home, he may act very skittish and reserved at the trainer's facility. A knowledgeable trainer will understand this and let you know it's to be expected. An incompetent trainer will take that opportunity to blame the whole thing on you. Okay, I'm a dog trainer. I understand dogs. So to me, if I have a client that tells me, oh yeah, he's this, and that, and then I see the dog and nothing, I don't see anything, I don't think, oh well, you're lying. I don't think, oh well, then it's because you're the problem. I understand when you take a dog out of its environment, they do behave differently. Any competent trainer understands that. Somebody who's completely incompetent, okay, regardless of how many years of experience they have, they will blame that on you. They will say, well, it's because, I am different, or because, my energy is different. You are all chaotic and this, and it's all your fault. Look, there is a time and a place to take responsibility for your dog's behavior, but the trainer should understand that's not always the case. Okay, then you have in-home consultations. This consultation takes place in your home. Not many dog trainers do this, but if they offer it, I would suggest it. What I like about the in-home consultation is that your dog will more than likely act exactly the same way which you describe. Okay? This will give the dog trainer a chance to see what to expect. The thing to really keep in mind here is safety. The dog trainer does not know your dog, and your dog may or may not, chances are probably not, will not be okay with a stranger walking into your home. Okay, if you're asking for help for your dog, and to the point that you need a dog trainer, let's face it, there's a chance your dog doesn't do well with strangers. Maybe a completely different reason, of course, but you want to keep safety in mind. Dog trainers bleed, okay? I have been in those situations where people took it way too relaxed, despite me telling them clearly, this is exactly what I need done. So be very, very, be on top of things for the safety of the trainer. Just to give you a quick story, this is not on the book. Somebody I know that trains dogs, she's a good trainer too. The owners were not entirely transparent with the in-home consultation, and the dog ended up biting her. So they took the whole safety thing very, very relaxed. And yes, some of that responsibility should go to the trainer. She understands that. She's aware of that. But the owners were way too relaxed, and this dog took a big chunk out of her. She had to go to the ER. She had to have surgery. So you don't want that. You don't want your dog to do that to another person, okay? So take that very, very careful. Be very aware of that. To avoid any issues, put your dog away when the trainer gets to your home. Go over the consultation, and then afterwards they can see your dog, okay? Don't do the consultation with your dog right there in front of you, and the trainer is asking you questions, and you're trying to answer the questions, and the dog is barking all over the place. It doesn't help you. You're gonna miss details. So it's best to put the dog away, talk first, and then bring the dog out. At least that's how I conduct the consultations. That's the best way that I found to do it. That way the owner can focus on what we're talking about. Dog trainers bleed just like everyone else, and they're not magicians. I've almost gotten bit before during consultations because a member of the family wasn't careful, and they let the aggressive dog in the main area, okay? Because this is 100% true. I had one case where I went to this home for a consultation for an in-home evaluation. The dog was aggressive. I was talking to the person, the prospect client. I told him I was going to go to the house doing the in-home evaluation. At the time, I offered that. And we were both very clear. You're like, okay, that dog needs to be put away in a different room so I can talk to you, get as much detail, and then I'll get to see your dog. Well, I go in. Before I go in, I talk to the husband one more time. I tell him, hey, I'm already here. Just want to remind you, the dog needs to be put away. I knock on the door. The husband opens the door. We shake hands. I come in. As soon as I come in, I see the wife. I didn't talk to her once. Okay. The wife sees me and she goes, oh, the dog trainer is here. And she heads towards the door where the dog's being kept behind. And the owner, the husband, was like, no, don't do that. And at the same time, I said the same thing. No, don't do that. And the wife said this. This is 100% true story. She's like, oh, it's okay. I just want to see what happens. He's a dog trainer. And as she said that, she opened that door and that dog came out charging out of that room. Fortunately, he wasn't, he was the typical aggressive dog that a lot of times just bluff, no bite. And, I stood my ground. I stood still. I had treats on me, so I started tossing treats. Nothing happened, but that could have gone really bad because somebody wanted to see what happens. So be very aware of that. If you're the owner, you don't want that on your conscience, okay? If you're a dog trainer, obviously, you need to probably be a little bit more determined than I was and more, more in charge than I was at the time. So that's how things can go down. Consultations at the facility are usually free, but because in-home consultations are out of the way, more than likely you'll have to pay some sort of fee for the trainer's time. After all, it is how they put food on the table, and that's how they pay their bills. So don't expect in-home evaluations to be free. Now, I'm going to give you sort of a brief breakdown of what questions you're going to be asked on the consultation. I have it on the book, so if you have the physical book, if you don't have it, I strongly suggest go to Amazon.com and type in the search bar just my name, William Garrido, and you'll see my books on there. This one is obviously called Selecting the Right Dog Trainer. Pick up that book. It's very cheap. It's a very short read, and you'll get the physical copy as well. So here's what the consultation roughly looks like, okay? They're going to ask you your dog's name, your dog's all information about your dog: gender, age, is the dog intact, is it altered. This is actually very important. When I ask that information, it's not to be nosy, but how an altered dog and how an intact dog behave, whether it's male or female, that can have an effect. Okay, females, when they're in heat, they can be very sensitive. They can also be less tolerant. Males, when they're intact, they can be more bold at a certain age. Also, the altered, the neutering that takes place, that can also have an effect. I work with dogs that after they got neutered, is when they develop behavior problems. And I've heard of that happening to more than one case, more than one person. So those are the questions that you're going to get asked by the trainer. When did you acquire the dog? For what purpose did you acquire the dog? And where did you get that dog? Was it a rescue dog? Did you find it? Was it a gift? Did you get it from a breeder? This is all information your trainer wants to know. Any other dogs in the house? The routine, the general routine of the household, how many people live there, who regularly visits the home, basically what's the overall routine of that dog. They're going to ask you about your dog's exercise routine, their diet. They're going to ask you about the dog's medication. This is just a very brief general consultation, by the way. Okay, they can also email you this for you to reply and email it back. There's some sort of consultation that there's going to be. They're going to ask you about the dog's history in terms of the problems that you are calling about. They're going to ask you about the dog's bite history, if there is any. Do not be ashamed to come up with the information about the bite history, okay, about the aggression. Even if you're not calling the trainer about aggression and it's something else, let the trainer know that your dog has a history of aggression. Even if he hasn't bit anybody, do it for that trainer. Do them a huge favor. They are helping you. And if this happens to be a very good trainer that is really able to help you, the last thing you want to do is piss them off. The last thing you want to do is get them injured, and now they can't help you, or now they don't want to help you, or now they're even hesitant to help you because now they notice that you were not transparent and your dog bit them without you saying anything about the potential risks of that happening. Now, again, dog trainers should know the risk of working with dogs, but if you already know there's a history, be upfront with that. Be upfront about that to that trainer. So they're going to ask you, the dog's training history. They're going to ask you about complaints, more details about the issues that you're inquiring about. They're going to ask you about your goals. And also, when they ask you about your goals, they're going to set your goals straight. So if your goals are unrealistic, or if maybe the timeline is unrealistic, they're going to let you know, okay, we need to maybe work on that timeline a little bit better. And then a trainer should also ask you, hey, is there anything else that, that didn't get brought up? And if they don't ask you, please bring it up. So if the trainer is done with the consultation and there was information that you should have told them, and maybe you were waiting for the question to come up, but the question never came up, and you happen to know it's good information that the trainer should know, you might want to bring it up. So let's say the entire consultation, the trainer didn't bring anything up about how your dog does with other dogs. Or, maybe the trainer was more specific about the issues that you called about. And let's say maybe your dog has a history of aggression with other dogs, and that never came up on the consultation. Or let's say your dog doesn't like to be touched in the rear end, right, around the hips. And it just so happens that the trainer didn't ask you that. And you go, well, you might want to know that he doesn't like it when you touch him here, here, and here. That's something that you want to let the trainer know, even if they didn't bring it up, okay? Trust me, it's for your own good. At the end of the day, this trainer is there to help you and help your dog. He is not going to be able to help you if he has to go to the ER and now he's lost use of his hand temporarily. So look out for the trainer. The trainer will have some sort of variation of that consultation that I just went over. Remember, if the trainer hasn't asked a particular question, just like I mentioned, make sure you bring it up, okay? Just another reminder, the consultation is not quite an interview for you to interview them. Now, you can ask some questions, but they're there to help you, okay? You can take the opportunity to get to know the trainer, but the consultation is not the time to drill the trainer with a bunch of questions so that they can secure the account. If you take the consultation as an interview, you'll be wasting your time. You'll be wasting their time. They also have questions that they want to ask you. So the consultation is information for them. Ask them some questions, yes, but you're not there to drill them, okay? It's not a job interview that they're trying to secure. Okay, let's go to the next chapter, questions to ask, page 27. I just got done telling you the consultation is not an interview. However, there are questions you can ask to determine if this person will actually take good care of your pup. Let them get through the consultation first. Let them get all the information about your dog and your goals. After that, you can ask them a few reasonable questions that will be very telling depending on their response. Some of those questions are, what methods do you use? Just like we mentioned in the earlier chapter, it should be fairly easy for any dog trainer to identify themselves and to tell you, what methods they use. Okay, you could also ask, what tools are you going to use on the dog? If you ask me that, I'll be very transparent from the very beginning, and I'll be explaining the process by which I choose what tool I use in every dog, because it may be different for every dog. As a matter of fact, as of the recording of this audio, at this very moment, I have a dog that I'm training for somebody else. And my process is we start with the slip leash to show the dog what we're doing. And then after that, we'll see what training collar is best for that particular dog, because we have different types of training collars. Sometimes the slip leash is just enough, so we stay on the slip leash. Sometimes it's a polymer collar. Sometimes it's a prong collar. Sometimes it's something else. So I'm very transparent about that, and it depends on every dog. My answer will never be, I'm going to use a prong collar on your dog, or I'm going to use an e-collar on your dog. It really is depending on what your goals are, what kind of dog we have. That combination of those things determine what tools we're going to use on your dog. So you should get some sort of answer that leans in that direction. Another question you could ask is, how long have you been training dogs? Now, I want you to remember something here, okay? So the question, how long have you been training dogs? It's a little bit tricky, so I'm going to proceed with the book. Remember what I said in an earlier chapter. Dog training rarely penalizes you for being incompetent for several years or decades. So don't be amazed by how many decades this trainer has been teaching dogs how to sit. It certainly helps, but it's not the only thing. If the trainer feels a little reserved about giving you a time frame, it probably means they've been doing it for less than a year. Don't be discouraged if that's the answer. Some of the best dog trainers I know were really good right out of their first year training dogs or doing apprenticeships or graduating from a dog training school. If they just started training dogs, your next question could be, where did you become a dog trainer, or what program did you follow to become a dog trainer? As of right now, the dog training industry is not regulated, so anyone can call themselves a dog trainer without a single piece of paper from a third party to verify their competence. If you ask this question, they should have an answer ready. They should be able to tell you the program they followed, the school they attended, or the dog trainer they shadowed or apprenticed under. Look up those places, do a little research on them, and make sure you're happy with what they're producing. I know this sounds like a lot, and I know I sound a bit paranoid by suggesting you do this, but trust me, having 90% of my friends and acquaintances as dog trainers, I wouldn't trust but a small handful of them with my dogs. There are too many unqualified people out there, and it is your dog you're trusting with. You're trusting them with. Okay, dogs have literally suffered and starved to death under the care, the quote-unquote care of these so-called dog trainers. So don't worry, you're asking very reasonable questions that any dog trainer should feel confident answering. Okay, so it is a lot, but trust me, if you heard some of the stuff that I heard, you would be incredibly selective, or you might not even trust your dog with other people. It's just some of the incompetence, some of the cruelty that I've heard professionals, okay, quote unquote professional trainers, do to other people's dogs is just unbelievable. It baffles me. So you want to be selective. You want to do a little bit of your homework. If your problem is severe and it involves behavior modification, you could also ask, have you ever worked with this type of problem before? And what approach do you use, and how did those dogs do with your training? So some of the problems that you might have with your dog might require some skill. Maybe your dog has, food aggression or separation anxiety, whatever, right? Whatever issue you might have, where you and your trainer can sort of determine what that is during the consultation. Well, if that's determined to be the problem, another question you should ask is, have you worked with this type of problem before? That's a reasonable question. Okay, and what approach did you use, and how did that turn out? There's virtually no issue I haven't seen at this point in my career. That's me personally, okay? At some point, yes, I had no experience with certain issues. Obviously, I didn't start in the dog training industry with all this experience. I had to build my experience with a bunch of first times. So, yeah, there were times where I didn't have experience with certain issues. But if that was the case, I didn't BS my client, okay? And I understood the reasoning behind the problem, and I knew how to address it, and I was able to convey that to the client. If my client didn't feel comfortable with me, no harm done. I understood, and we moved on. So if you train dogs, your dog trainer, the person you're talking to, if they truly understand dog training, if they truly understand the process, I'm telling you, even if you present them with something they have never seen before, just by understanding the fundamental concepts of dog training, a dog trainer could piece that together. That's exactly how I have gotten a lot of my experiences, by going, well, I've never dealt with this, but I know how to do this, this, and this, and that, and we do it. The bottom line is, someone understands their craft if they're able to explain in simple terms what's going on with your dog and how they're going to address the issues. Of course, there are some exceptions, but as a client, you should be able to have at least one eye-opening moment during the consultation. Remember, they're not fixing your car, they're taking care of your dog. All right, next chapter, we're going to go to red flags. This chapter may scare you a bit, so grab some tea and get comfortable. I have been at the brink of ditching this industry so many times due to the lack of accountability in the field. The sad reality is that there are just as many, if not more, irresponsible, uncaring, and incompetent dog trainers out there than there are good ones. There have been news headlines, undercover videos of dog trainers beating dogs with blunt objects. That's no exaggeration. That's exactly what has been caught on camera, okay, on video. And people killing dogs because of neglect. And those are just people that get caught. There are instances like that all the time. I've seen it and I've heard about it so many times. The things that make it to the news, some of the stuff that make it to the news where people go, oh my God, I can't believe that guy did that. Some of those things are mild compared to what actually happens. And, these people that get caught, that actually don't get caught, that are doing way worse things. Okay, even your beloved dog trainers on social media that you probably some of you absolutely love. Okay, people that freaking have like the million followers and that are, oh, this guy is awesome, this guy is great, he loves dogs. No, behind closed doors, some of these people are downright cruel. Okay, I've heard it from some of their staff members, some of the things that they have done. It is unbelievable. So there are red flags that you want to be aware of. As I said in an earlier chapter, most of my acquaintances are dog trainers with very little skill promoting their services. I know people in my circle who work with animal abusers who have nearly starved their clients' dogs to death, have hung them, literally hung them, etc., and blatantly not even trained the dog. Okay? While they charge the client for a 2 or 3 week board and train. Okay? Like these people will charge a client for 3 weeks or 4 weeks of board and train. They'll go on vacation. Okay, they'll go on vacation while they're supposed to take care of a dog, and they're getting paid, and all they did was pay their neighbor to come to their house and let the dog out for a couple of times a day while they were the ones collecting the paycheck so that they could go on vacation. Okay, I have seen necks torn up, busted teeth, and trainers just not train the dogs that they were trusted with and paid to train. This crap happens way too often, and they have no one to answer to. I've seen this with small businesses. I've seen it with big businesses. With small businesses, it's easy because they're their own boss and no one holds them accountable. With big businesses, big companies, it can happen because the supervisor is not aware or willing to see their trainers spend most of the day looking at funny videos and checking social media and only train their clients' dogs like, one little bit, right? Like every 2 days or so, they'll train that client dog. I've seen that too with big businesses. So as impressive as the business is, as nice as the website is, as awesome as the trainer's reputation is, you have to be aware because there are a lot of scumbags out there. In short, it's easier now for you to get ripped off by the overflow of dog trainers than it's been in the past. You are a paying customer. You should feel comfortable asking questions, and you should feel very comfortable saying no and moving on to the next trainer. Now, the following is a list of red flags that you need to be aware of. So one of the red flags, they show lack of patience with you and make you feel as though your questions are stupid. Okay, that's a red flag. If as you're asking these questions, or even throughout the entire consultation process, they show lack of patience with you, okay? If they're not showing a whole lot of patience with you, you need to get away from this person. If they show very little lack of patience with a human, what makes you think they won't lose their cool with your dog? Please trust me on this one. A person who shows compassion and patience with a prospect client is more likely to show compassion and patience with your dog. Not always, but more likely. I have seen several trainers in this category all throughout my career, and I can tell you with confidence, it's almost always a sign that this person will lose their patience with your dog. I've seen it time and time again. If the trainer shows very little lack of patience with you, okay, if you feel like this person is somewhat rude, that is a red flag. Trust me. When I see trainers that don't have patience for people, I instantly see a person that doesn't have patience with dogs. They lose their patience very quick, and then they start getting pretty aggressive with the dog very quickly. So to me, that's a red flag. Another red flag, this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, but another red flag, they show up wearing an old t-shirt, dirty hat, sweatpants, shorts, open-toe shoes. If during the consultation you first meet up with this person, they don't have to be 1,000% professional, but if they look like, like they just rolled out of bed, to me, that's a red flag. And I know what you're thinking. I'm being too picky and putting too much emphasis on looks. Is there a possibility that this person might be a good dog trainer? Yes, absolutely. Is there a possibility that a clean-cut, well-dressed trainer can still abuse your dog and not have the slightest idea of how to even train dogs? Of course, that's also a possibility. But we're talking about improving your odds, okay? We're talking about improving your odds here. I only expect a mechanic to look like crap. Every other professional I deal with doesn't have to wear a shirt and tie, but they shouldn't look like they just got up from a nap. Okay, especially on the first time that you're meeting them. If they don't take their professional look serious, then they don't take their profession serious. If they don't take their profession serious, that's fine. They just don't need to be taking care of my dogs. Another red flag. So this is a bit of a red flag, but I'm going to explain as I move on too. So a bit of a red flag right here is they were police dog handlers or trainers not long ago, or are currently police dog handlers or police dog trainers, or canine handlers, canine trainers, and or train pet dogs part-time, or as they handle, full working dogs full-time. Now that sounds harsh, I know, but I actually got started in the dog training industry by working with and handling and training police dogs, working dogs. Although not always the case, trust me when I say this, many dog handlers, canine trainers, canine handlers, many of them truly don't have a clue. I know that sounds harsh, but a lot of them don't have a clue, okay? If you don't believe me, here are just some of the few lines, some of the things I've heard coming out of these police dog trainers and handlers with years of experience. Okay, here are some of the things that I've heard coming out of these professionals over the years. To establish dominance, you have to pee on the dog. I'm not making that up. That wasn't a joke. When the guy said it, it didn't come out as a joke. He firmly believed that. This was a police dog trainer who said this. He wasn't joking. He was saying this in a very serious tone. Another one, to establish dominance, you have to spit in your dog's food so they can accept you as their pack leader. Again, not a joke. It's not that they said it, during a smoke break or anything. I would actually see them do it. They put the dog's food in the bowl, spit in it, and then when I remember seeing it, I was like, why do you do that? The answer was, well, if you spit in your dog's food, you establish dominance. Dead serious, okay? Also a trainer with decades of experience. This particular trainer had an impressive resume too. He was a military dog handler and a police dog trainer at the time. So he had the resume and firmly believed spitting in the dog's food would address relationship. Another quote, okay, to establish dominance, you have to muzzle your dog, pin them on the ground, and bite their ear until they submit. I heard this from a police dog handler that had been a handler on the force for a very long time. And he actually did that with his dog. And he believed that. And he would tell the junior handlers, he would tell them to do that too. This guy also trained pet dogs on the side, by the way. Okay. Another quote, to establish dominance, you need to hang your dog until they almost fully pass out. This line I heard in Afghanistan when I was working with handlers and trainers from different parts of the world, from South Africa, Bosnia, Latin America. And one of these trainers, he was actually a handler with a lot of experience. He said this, and this wasn't like new to me, because by then I already had some years of experience under my belt, and I heard of this before. So To establish dominance, just hang the dog till they almost pass out. And then, obviously let them off. This is a common thing, okay? This is a very common thing with police dog handlers, military working dog handlers. So that's why it's a red flag. Also, if you haven't noticed, every behavior problem based on these lines I just gave you to one of these trainers in this category is a dominance issue. They're obsessed with the whole dominance thing. Okay, know that all the things above are nonsense. So please don't even bother considering doing any of those things that I just went over. So don't even think about doing any of those things. Don't pee on your dog. Don't spit on your dog's food. Don't pin them on the ground and bite their ear. You could get seriously injured if you do that. And definitely don't hang your dog. These are just nonsense lines from people that are taught pretty much just how to handle a dog. Not so much train him. And if they do train him, it's mostly mechanics. So be careful with trainers in this category. Now, I do want to give you a side note here. I want to clarify that, not every police dog handler, police dog trainer, or a trainer that has that experience, not all of them are like that, okay? Obviously, that's not the case. I'm not like that. And that was the bulk of my experience early in my career. And I know many dog trainers that are in this category that are the police dog handlers, that were the police dog trainers, and military working dog trainers that are very, very good and very competent trainers. So not every police dog or military working dog handler or trainer is like that. Okay? There are some amazing police dog trainers and handlers out there. They're just so far in between. This is just a typical stereotype that many of these trainers happen to fit into. Okay, refer to the consultation and questions to ask chapters to get a better idea of whether this will be the right fit. Okay, some other red flags. They hint euthanasia way too early. There are in fact trainers who believe if the dog is too hard to train or if training will cause discomfort, you should just put it down instead of something else, because they consider putting it down more humane than putting a training collar on the dog and saying no. Although rehoming and yes, maybe even euthanasia could be an option, it shouldn't be one of the trainer's first suggestions on day one. If you're faced with this type of trainer, beware. That's the way incompetence sounds. Another red flag, one-size-fits-all trainers. This is actually very popular now. You'll see this with some franchises or very avid fans of a particular method. The thing with dog training is it's not a one-size-fits-all type of service. The dog trainer should be able to modify based on your needs and each individual dog that they're working with. If you feel they're unwilling to deviate from their cookie cutter approach, be careful. I have seen many people waste thousands of dollars on trainers like these, or worse, seeing their dog only a fraction of the dog they were before training. So, a bit of a red flag right there. All right, next chapter. How much should you expect to pay? Monetary value is very relative depending on where and when you're reading this book. So even if I give you actual figures, they may still not be accurately depending on when you're listening to this and also depending on your market. There's a saying that goes somewhere along these lines. Very popular saying when it comes to businesses, but in dog training is pretty big too. Okay, here's the saying. A good trainer isn't cheap. A cheap trainer isn't good. I wish this was the case. It would be so much easier to find the right dog trainer then, because then all you would have to do is spend a little extra. The reality is, this is not always the case. I had a client once who spent over $3,000 in training, and nothing to show for it. They spent a lot of money. It was well over $3,000 with nothing to show for it. Literally nothing. The dog came back worse. Okay, the dog came back with more bites under its belt because they had bit the trainer. Okay, and then the trainers had the nerve to tell the clients that they needed to put the dog down and that the dog should never be allowed to go outside ever again if euthanasia wasn't an option. That they spent over $3,000 over, okay, for that. Now, good, just aside from the book, just a side note, happy ending to the story. I did get with them afterwards, and I helped them achieve what these trainers told them they would never be able to do with this dog in a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost. We didn't rush it. We took our time. We did it carefully. But all we needed to do is just give the dog a sense of purpose towards something else, and we basically trained the dog to go, hey, dude, you can be whatever you want to be, but when we give you a task, okay, when we tell you heal, you have to heal. That's called incompatible behaviors. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details as to what we did with this dog, but I just wanted to tell you that the dog was trainable. The dog was absolutely trainable. The owners just need a little bit of guidance, and they needed the right advice. All right, let's continue on with the book. Being surrounded by all kinds of dog trainers, I also see on a regular basis very talented dog trainers who don't charge much at all. I see that. Okay, in short, price isn't always an indicator that a trainer is good. So let's go back to that quote real quick. A good trainer is not cheap. A cheap trainer is not good. That's not always the case, guys. Okay, that's not always the case. Now, roughly, here is what the price breakdown looks like depending on the services that you're inquiring about. Okay, consultations. Consultations are usually free or very low cost if the trainer happens to travel to you. Group classes. Group classes are the cheapest option for dog trainers. If dog trainers offer group classes, this is the cheapest option that they're going to offer. Compared to private lessons, compared to board and trains, group classes are your most affordable option. Okay? You will normally sign up for 6 to 7 lessons. So what you typically do for group classes, if you're not familiar with this, you will pay the trainer a fee that will include 6 or 7 lessons, depending on how they're forming their group classes. So what I used to do, remember the time is relevant here. This is years ago. What I used to do is I would charge $200. And for those $200, they will get 6 or 7 lessons. I can't remember because it was a while ago. But 6 or 7 lessons would cost them, $200. But the thing is, they would have to share that hour with other people. That's why they're called group classes. So I had like 5 people sign up for group classes. That means each of them will pay $200, but we would do about 6 to 7 lessons, okay, once a week. So that's 6-7 weeks of work for about an hour, and we would do it as a group. So that's a little bit of the catch, if you will, of the group classes. The most affordable, but you're not going to get one-on-one attention for the entire hour. Okay, the next service is going to be private lessons. Private lessons tend to cost about what you would pay for a set of group classes. But in private lessons, it would be the cost of just one. For example, if signing up for group classes would cost you $100 total for 6 classes, for group classes, a private lesson can cost you about $100 per single lesson. Again, this is just a rough estimate, but in my personal opinion, or my personal rates, and and what I have seen on the market, it's roughly about what you will be looking at. Private lessons usually are sold in packages too, which will end up saving you some money due to the package discount. So let me sort of rephrase that away from the book context. So when I offer group classes, I would charge people $200 for about 6 or 7 lessons. I can't remember. I want to say 6, maybe 7. I don't remember, honestly. But it was $200 for about 6 or 7 lessons, right? That's what I would charge. I know some trainers that charge less. I know trainers, and good trainers too, that would charge like $97 for like a group of 6 lessons. And I also know some trainers that charge $100 for a group of 6 lessons. I charge $200 for about 6 or 7 lessons. My private lessons, okay, this is different now. My private lessons were about $100 per lesson. It's a big contrast there. So with group classes, $200 for 6 or 7 lessons, but you would get about an hour once a week with other people. Private lessons, I would charge much more, so it was a premium. You would pay more. You would pay me more if you were my client for private lessons, but you would get an entire hour, okay, of my attention. I would work with you and your dog for that entire hour. Now, if you bought a package of private lessons, if you bought like 5 private lessons, there would be a little bit of a discount. So that is sort of the benefit of buying it in bulk. If you just buy one at a time, one lesson at a time, I'm going to charge you more. If you buy a package, I'm going to charge you a little bit less because you're committing to more lessons. Now, there are trainers that don't even sell single private lessons. Some trainers will just tell you flat out, I'm going to charge you for a group of private lessons. But anyway, that's sort of the price breakdown and the difference between group classes and private lessons. Then there's another service, day training. Now, I didn't offer day training in a particular sense. I did do it for one time, but the way other dog trainers, other businesses form their day training, it can vary. Okay, whatever the boarding fee is, plus a percentage for training session or 2, depending on how they structure their service. So I know some trainers that offer day training, and what they do is they'll charge you a boarding fee. So I don't know, like let's say the boarding fee is $30, right, per day. Day training, what you could do is you could drop your dog off in the morning and you can go to work, and instead of just boarding, you could say, hey, I'm going to do the day training package, or the day training service. So now if the boarding fee is $30 per day, they would charge you, for instance, $40 or $50. And your dog didn't just get boarding, but it would also get 1 or 2 training sessions. That's day training. So depending on how they're structuring that service, it may be a variation of that. From my experience, from what I've heard, at least not my personal experience, from the people that I know that offer this service, this is sort of how they would structure that. Then you have boarding and training, or IKT, which means in-kennel training. Okay, boarding and training is an investment. And please make sure you found the right trainer first. Otherwise, you'll be spending your hard-earned money or getting a credit card out or a loan out to fund that trainer's vacation, or just to have your dog lay in a crate all day with minimal breaks. Boarding and training is the most expensive. This is getting a little bit off the book too. It is the most expensive option. And that's why I'm emphasizing on that first paragraph. Make sure you found the right trainer first. Make sure you've asked the right questions, and make sure you've paid attention to the red flags if there were any. Because boarding and training is where dogs tend to get neglected the most. Okay? In private lessons, obviously no, because you're there. Group classes, no, because you're there. You're taking care of the training. Day training, possibly. You might get ripped off, possibly. you might do day training and pay for day training, and maybe the trainer didn't even train your dog once. That is always a possibility. That's why you want to make sure that you get the right professional. But in boarding and training, this is where I have heard of most of the rip-offs happening, most of the neglect happening. Where I know, I have seen it, okay, and I've known people that would charge for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks of board and train, and for an entire week that dog didn't get trained. And it only got trained like the last 5 days that dog stayed there. And the reason they would do that is because it was an easy paycheck for the trainers, and they would just, crank up the pressure on the last 5 days. And that's whether it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I've seen that happen. This is where I see this is where I see dogs get the most neglect, where dogs sit in their crate, in their crap, like all day long. This is where they get the sores on their necks. I hear these stories all the time. I get messages. Recently, I got a message from a follower with a picture of her dog with a bunch of sores on its neck, and it was after having done a board and train with the dog trainer. So boarding and training is the most expensive, but this is the one part that your dog is more likely to get neglected or not trained. So it is very important that you take this entire book, okay, digest it, pay attention to the keynotes, take notes, and reread it or listen to it before you fully commit to this dog trainer if you're thinking about board and training, because you have to be careful with this. All right, let's go back to the book. This is the most expensive option. I've had clients get loans out to pay for training. I definitely have. If this is the best option for your dog, do it. But be aware it's pricey, okay? To put our attention on good, honest, hardworking dog trainer, this is what they do for a living, okay? A good dog trainer, an honest dog trainer, they pay their bills and they feed their families with dog training. So, don't scoff at the price. If they're worth it, they're worth it, okay? Good dog trainers, the boarding and training sometimes happens to be the bulk of their business. So if they're honest, hardworking dog trainers, they are definitely worth every penny. Okay, they're professionals. It's something that they're doing for the industry, for you, for your dog, and for their family. Okay, so remember, boarding and training is where you're gonna get the most for your money as well, because boarding and training, God, it really varies. It completely varies. Some people are charged quite a bit. Also, depending on when you're listening, what your market is at the moment, and where you are located, the cost of living changes drastically. Okay, so that'll make the price change drastically. So that is still going to be an investment. Okay, the other option is, of course, for you to train your own dog. The financial investment will be very small, but it will require you to read books, watch several videos, follow programs, etc. It's very, very doable. Okay, I just got off the phone with a prospect client, and we were talking, and he was very, very frank about it. He was like, "Hey, and I do train my dogs too. I have trained my dogs in the past, and the work that he's sort of looking for is more specific to protection work, which he doesn't have experience with that." And he did tell me, he wasn't rude about this at all. I perceived the tone instantly, right? He did tell me, no offense. We're not even talking about price. So he was like, no offense, but a lot of the stuff is on YouTube, right? I mean, you can learn how to train a dog on YouTube, and that is exactly right. I have just training in general, not specialties like protection training, but training in general. I mean, as of this moment, I have over 700 videos on my YouTube channel, and most of them, or a lot of them, are how-tos. They're broken down instructional videos on my YouTube channel. So it's at Dog Training is My Passion. So yeah, a lot of the stuff you can find on YouTube, the information is out there. So you training your own dog, that is a possibility. You could go to workshops, you could get books, you could watch endless videos, you could sign up for training courses. I have a membership area on dogtrainingismypassion.com where I have more in-depth, exclusive instructional videos. So you could do all of that, but you have to keep in mind that is going to take you longer. Is it doable? Absolutely. I think it's very doable. And personally, I think it's great if you could do that. But not everybody has the time. Not everybody has the desire to do it. And when you don't, that's when you have professionals like me and other dog trainers. You just have to be careful that you hire the right one, because we're talking about your dog. All right, last chapter, conclusion. Okay, so let's wrap up the book. Your dog is a special member of the family. As such, its training should be carefully considered. I firmly believe every dog should be trained, even if they have no unwanted behaviors. No dog can truly be happy unless there are predictable patterns and consistency in its environment. Training provides that, and it makes you a better dog owner. My goal in writing this book was to help people identify who they need to stay away from and how to identify the right dog trainer. I want to see all irresponsible, uncaring, incompetent trainers get no business and leave the industry. Until then, we need to be aware of them and focus on the person who can help us. Ultimately, your dog will only be in the best hands if you learn how to train your own dog, as we discussed a moment ago. Nothing can surpass that. You don't need to become a dog trainer, but if you simply read a couple of books, attend a couple of workshops, or follow the right program, you can learn enough to become just what your dog needs. That's the end of the book. And now about the author, about myself. This is very brief. I have trained dogs on various areas of dog training, from teaching dogs how to find explosives to addressing severe behavior cases. I also have trained and continue to train hundreds of people to train dogs. There isn't a single day I don't talk about dog training. This is what I do 24/7. Dog training has been a way of life for me for several years. Even my hobbies revolve around dog training in the area of protection training. My hope is to put out as much information as I can to help as many people and dogs as I can. It is, as of this moment, a mission of mine. It's my purpose to put out as much content as I possibly can. That's why I have the YouTube channel, I have the podcast, I have these books. And as of right now, I have 4 books: Selecting the Right Dog Trainer, Common Myths About Dogs. That's on Amazon. And I also have an audio version of that here in the YouTube channel. So make sure you look for that. And the Common Myths goes over a bunch of common myths about dogs that I debunk throughout the book. Another book I have is Info Every Dog Trainer Should Know. This is if you're a dog trainer. It's a bunch of tips and a bunch of it's not a how-to on how to train dogs, but it's sort of a general guideline as to what practices should be followed if you're a dog trainer to improve you and to improve the industry. And then another book that I wrote with a lot of help from awesome professionals is the Decoy Book. This is a protection book, and it's specifically aimed at the helper, at the person taking the bites, how to take care of yourself, how to get started in the industry, and a bunch of tips that will help you throughout the industry. Not a how-to guide on how to train the dog, but a how-to as in how to stay healthy and how to stay in the industry and do well in the industry of protection training as a helper, as a decoy. And that's pretty much it for the book. Thank you for listening to this entire book, to this entire audio. If you haven't liked this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Check out dogtrainingismypassion.com and there's other stuff on there. I have a course on working dogs, and I also have the membership as I discussed earlier. Stay tuned for more. I do have more books that are in my head that I'm thinking about writing and releasing. So that's something that's going to be coming up sometime in the future.